Michael Jackson died on June 25, 2009 from an overdose of the anesthetic propofol, on which he was said to have been dependent along with other medications for a long time. What I remember most, besides his music, were his countless cosmetic surgeries which transformed Jackson over time from a likable boy into an unnatural-looking artificial construct, at the end of which even his black skin became white. It has often been rumored that Michael Jackson deliberately wanted this to happen. By the end of this video, you will know that wasn't the case. If it had been up to him, he would probably have remained a visually normal black pop star forever. But life happened differently. As always, first of all, the theory of the clinical picture from the perspective of Germanische Heilkunde. The skin has tissue types that have developed from the middle and outer germ layers. The skin therefore has two different conflict contents with two different, meaningful, significant biological special programs, SBS for short. The white spot disease, vitiligo, is one of the SBS separation conflicts controlled by the cerebral cortex. DHS, Dirk-Hammer syndrome, is an event in which one wanted to be separated or not separated. An illustrative example of this is a small child who comes to daycare and suffers a separation conflict with his mother. The physical changes begin where the individual felt the separation of DHS. Separation always has to do with something living, so the DHS always has to do with people, animals, or plants. Exceptions can be small children who perceive something as living, for example, the beloved doll. As with all SBS, the conflict occurs completely synchronously on the three levels of psyche, brain, and organ. The DHS begins the conflict active phase. In the psyche, the affected person has obsessive thoughts about the separation. Mom is gone. In the brain, you can see the active Hama focus in the cerebral cortex. This ensures that cells are broken down organically where the separation was felt. As a result of degradation, for example, the top of the outer skin becomes rough and scaly. It also has poor blood circulation. The sensory system is disturbed and we no longer feel properly. This is also the biological meaning of the program. Short-term memory is impaired and we forget. The reduction depends on the intensity of the conflict and the duration of the conflict. If the separation conflict is resolved, the person affected enters the healing phase. He is now mentally liberated. Mom is back. All is well. In the first part of the healing phase, fluid retention occurs in Hama focus in the brain. This can be noticeable as a headache. Organically, the skin rebuilds with redness, swelling, and itching. These include clinical pictures such as neurodermatitis, urticaria, rashes, etc. Small children, for example, naturally attach their mouths to their mother's breast when breastfeeding and cling to their mother with their inner extremities. If they now experience a separation conflict of not wanting to be separated from their mother, once it has been resolved, they will react with neurodermatitis in exactly these areas, namely the arm and elbow and cheeks. The epileptoid crisis in separation conflict is absence. In the second part of the healing phase, the Hama focus is repaired with connective tissue cells, the so-called glia. The swelling, redness, and itching disappear, and at the end of the healing phase, the outer skin returns to normal after a single pass. If the underside of the outer skin is affected in the SBS, the DHS separation also had an ugly, brutal component. Since the dye for our skin, the pigment, is formed in the cells on the underside of the outer skin, and these cells are broken down in the active phase, logically, no pigment can be formed there anymore. The result of this is the appearance of clearly visible white spots on the skin. White spot disease is the active phase of an ugly, brutal separation conflict. If the conflict is not resolved and is activated again and again, it can go so far, as in the case of Michael Jackson, that one is transformed from an originally colored person into a white person. So, to solve the mystery of Michael Jackson's vitiligo, one needs to find out where the skin lesions began, when they began, and in this regard, look for an ugly, brutal breakup that accompanied him until his death. In 1993, he said the following in a television interview with Oprah Winfrey. I suffer from a skin dysfunction that destroys the pigmentation of the skin, and I can't do anything about it. We try to keep it under control by using makeup because it hides the spots on my face. It is known that Jackson was treated by his longtime dermatologist, Dr. Arnold Klein, for vitiligo and a butterfly lichen for more than 25 years until his death in 2009. If we go back 25 years, we end up in 1984. And actually, for the first time in the summer of 1984, Michael Jackson's symptoms of a separation conflict can be identified using pictures. In photos from this time, you can clearly see the butterfly lichen on the face. What extraordinary thing happened in the life of Michael Jackson in 1984? Take a look at this video. Michael Jackson is on fire. The American magazine, US Magazine, has now released dramatic new footage of the King of Pop. The footage shows him on January 27, 1984 in LA. This is where he was filming his world-famous Pepsi commercial. At first, everything went normally. Michael took the stage and was supposed to sing with his brothers. The accident happened on the sixth run-through. The fireworks were set off too early. Suddenly, Michael's hair was on fire. The pop star didn't notice anything and wanted to finish filming. Much too late, the film crew intervened and rescued Michael from his nightmare. Sources close to Michael are now reporting. After the accident, the King of Pop was no longer the same, resorting to various painkillers to cope with the second and third degree burns. He became dependent on painkillers and wanted to get his old looks back, really ruining himself with the numerous cosmetic surgeries. Did we find a DHS with the fire accident? Yes, definitely, but not the cause of vitiligo. The accident could not have caused vitiligo. Firstly, the burn goes towards attacking conflicts. Secondly, a separation conflict always has to do with something living. And thirdly, in the accident commercial, it was the scalp that was affected and not Michael's face, where the skin changes began. During the stressful operations, Jackson became dependent on pain medication. Jackson developed a great fear of pain. Why? Where did this fear come from? What was a DHS if not the accident? I came across this through my daughter, through whom I also discovered the secret of BNS cramps. See the video of Marie Fredriksson. My daughter has other programs going on due to the events surrounding her birth. One of these is SBS of the skin, which appears on the face. The skin around the mouth and the nose shows the imprint of a ventilation mask in the form of angiofibromas. This imprint comes from a maneuver of actively inflating the lungs that were performed on our daughter immediately after birth. The butterfly lichen on the King of Pop also shows an imprint, namely that of an anesthesia procedure using two-hand mask ventilation. If you fold your hands up to the side during two-hand mask ventilation, the shape of the butterfly that we see on Jackson's face in 1984 becomes visible. The DHS for the ugly breakup will have happened during one of the surgeries following the accident. The butterfly lichen suggests that something went wrong during one of these operations while under anesthesia, causing Jackson to suffer a brutal breakup that triggered the vitiligo. Maybe the anesthetic didn't work yet or wasn't effective enough, and he woke up in brutal pain and wanted to be separated from the person who was pressing the mask on his face. There can always be problems with anesthesia. The Mitteldeutsche Zeitung reports in the article anesthesia problem at Magdeburg University Hospital, suddenly wide awake during the operation from December 10, 2017, about the anesthetic propofol. Jackson was able to solve the separation once in the summer of 1984, so that during this time you could see the hands as an imprint on his face. After that, he was conflict active again until the end of his life, and the white spots spread over his entire body. What actively kept the conflict going? Are there signs of tracks that accompanied him throughout his life? Naturally, during the suspected unfortunate operation, propofol was used as an anesthetic, which have been programmed in as a track. As mentioned above, Jackson regularly consumed propofol for calm until his death. Tragically, he died of an overdose of this drug in 2009. Other possible tracks include the countless cosmetic surgeries he had after the firecracker incident. From 1984 onwards, everything revolved around pain relief and his disfigured appearance. Every single operation will bring the experience back to the boil and keep him conflict active. Propofol and the operation were the tracks for his never-ending ordeal. It is therefore logical that he progressively transformed from a colored man into a white man. It is now clear why Jackson carried out the numerous cosmetic surgeries on his face, especially on his nose, why he walked around with an umbrella, or why he so often wore clothes in front of his olfactory organ. It wasn't crazy or artistic whimsy, but rather the hope of alleviating the symptoms of his illness or protecting his skin. He also openly admitted this in interviews. He just wasn't believed. Instead, the rumor that he wanted to become white because he felt inferior as a colored person still persists in the public today. This is all nonsense. He only used skin bleaching cream to hide his white spot disease. Michael Jackson was completely unremarkable in this regard until 1984. His transformation only began after the commercial drama and the subsequent operations. That's where his vitiligo began, which he solved once in 84 in the form of a butterfly rash, and that's where his suffering began. Rest in peace.